Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Thursday, the 3rd of November, comes to you from London. And a sea of red on the screen this morning after that interest rate rise in the US. It was expected, and we're awaiting about an hour from now the UK rate rise, which is predicted to be at 0.75% as well. Unlikely they're going to go at 0.5% because they did that last time and they should have gone 0.75, and unlikely they're going to go 1 because that's just quite a big jump. So 0.75% is really what we're expecting to see, 0.75% rise in UK interest rates, and the market is pricing that in. The dollar is actually up 1.4%, so it was testing this 110 level. Remembering this is my weekly, my daily, and my 60-minute chart. I'm running here on Refinitiv Icon, but you could easily be running on Bloomberg, Tradeport, whatever data service you want. We've got over 30 different data services that you can feed directly into your Updata system and then get the power of additional technical analysis on top of your platform. So looking here at the weekly chart, the daily chart, and the 60-minute chart, my long-term, medium-term, and short-term view of the market with the corresponding point and figure targets, which of course are unique to Updata. And so we see here that we are just pushing back. That 115 level is going to be the really critical level for the dollar. That means that the euro is pushing lower. These are my tracker charts. You can download this desktop straight out of the box with Updata, depending on whatever feed you've got. And you can run on lots of free data services like Yahoo, etc. So looking here at the weekly chart, we are pushing lower on the euro, sitting at 97.5 cents. So again, that 95 low is looking like it's going to come under pressure. And of course, we've had these long-term targets on the euro, which we've been talking about all year. So really can't avoid that. The Japanese yen is sitting at 148. We are seeing pushing back towards that 150 level, which is where we see the Bank of Japan intervening most of the time. Sterling is actually down 1%. Even though we've got an interest rate rise in the UK, the market is just falling away. The expectation is often bigger than the event in markets, and already we're seeing just a move down from that 116 level over the last few days back to 112. So the gloss is coming off the renewed political situation in the UK, and we do have these downside targets to parity for the pound, which we just cannot ignore. Those, of course, are very long-term targets given in 2016, 2017, and these targets often do take years to play out on those longer-term 1% log-scale charts. Looking at sterling against the euro, we're holding a little bit better there, 115.5, but we are seeing this morning, again, just spiking down on that interest rate expectation that we're expecting to hear shortly. Against Bitcoin, we're sitting at $20,200, so really just sideways there, nothing major there. The S&P 500 index was down 2.5% overnight. Notice how we hit cloud resistance here, and we are pushing lower. This data is coming from Yahoo, the intraday data not present on Yahoo. So we're looking here and seeing that we're lower there. That lower low at 3,500, the lower high. Whilst we had a little bit of a rally in October, we are now just seeing that push away. And of course, we've got these downside targets to aim for. The NASDAQ had a really torrid time last night, and that has gone back to bearish below the cloud on the short-term 60-minute chart. We're seeing the futures down 0.2% on the S&P, and the NASDAQ down 0.75%. So we're not going to see anything like a dead cat bounce or a recovery today. Looks like we're going lower still. No big surprises. We get down moves in the downtrends. That's what we should expect. Watch these shorter term targets. If you're trading the futures, use the 1-minute chart. You're going to have real-time targets kicking in all the time for your short-term trading. Absolutely essential. The FTSE future, the VIX volatility is up 2% at 26, and again fearful above 30. Remember, looking at the FTSE future, we are sitting down 0.2% today. Has held up pretty well, but again, no surprises there. The DAX in Germany down 1%. The CAC Quarante down 0.75%, and again, just seeing these markets now having rallied, now just starting to hit resistance and starting for the next leg down. Japan was actually up very slightly. The Hang Seng has been strong the last few days, but has actually fallen away, down 3% there. So that's quite key. And in fact, we're seeing quite a lot of targets to the downside as well. If we look here, we see lots of new targets, and these are on the medium term charts. So these are the daily charts giving those targets. The very short term targets happen on the 1 minute charts. The short term targets happen on the 60-minute charts. These are all set up in your enterprise system, and again, new downside targets for gold. So that's just something to watch there. We're seeing how that sentiment's just changing through the day. So really quite significant there. So coming back to looking at these indices, we've got the Shanghai index off slightly. The Sensex, we talked about India looking stronger. We've got that upside target there on India activated. We're still waiting for a new high to activate that even bigger target. But the fact is that India is looking stronger than most stock markets. Whether it can actually buck the trend is another key thing. The Aussie market fell off the back of the US, down 1.8% overnight. So quite a big sharp fall there at the open. And we are just again seeing that wandering into a bear trend there. We'll look at the energy mix in a minute, but a lot of the soft commodities down. Coffee, we turned bearish on coffee in our monthly report out to clients at the start of the week, and this is why we're seeing here downside targets met, really just breaking lower. Looking at things like wheat, we've talked about wheat this morning. Of course, the Russia U-turn on the wheat passage out of Ukraine has meant that wheat prices fell straight the way back, and we did a post on that on LinkedIn, waiting for these downside targets to be activated. We have got one on the 60-minute chart that is active, and corn is down in sympathy, down 0.75%, and again we saw that big move yesterday off the back of that. Gold is actually really looking not great this morning, down 0.8%. That stronger dollar having an impact. We are in a sell anything and everything mentality at the moment, and we are seeing that new downside target there for gold. So really quite worrying. Gold will have its day with a high inflationary environment, but not just yet. And that's the key thing. You've got to wait for the charts to tell you. And so for the moment, not looking great. Silver also back below the $19 mark. So that's not looking great either. And if we look at other metals, copper, again, we turned bearish on copper recently, and we're seeing downside pressure there. We're below the weekly, below the daily. You cannot ignore that. Looking at the US 10-year yield sitting at 4.2% this morning, so pushing higher. That upside target there for US rates at 9%. Not many people can buy that, but that's what the chart says. And if we look at the German Bund, that's off 1%. This is actually the bond price. The Bund future in Germany down lower, looking really grim. Downside targets there. If you're trading the Bund, use the 1 minute point and figure charts. They're going to be really insightful. We saw some big moves in tech last night. Apple was down to 145, remembering that 130 is the level for Apple. Amazon falling much lower, below that 100 mark. We've got targets to $84. We've talked about that lots on LinkedIn and to clients. Looking at Google, lower there as well. Microsoft, all these charts just heading lower. Tech, all these downside targets. Look at that. 4 downside targets there for Microsoft. We really cannot ignore those, and they were given at much higher levels and now being met, and you just can't ignore the targets. And Meta is definitely one that's been reaching for these downside targets and really looking very grim. From $400 down now to $100, that's a really massive $90. That's a massive fall for Meta. And of course Tesla, the darling of the stock market, now starting to look worrying as well. Below $200 there for Tesla would not be good. A quick look at the energy mix. We've got Brent crude down this morning. We're seeing really demand fears across the world at the moment. We've got Brent crude down 1.5%. We were quite bullish at the open, but we are just seeing that deteriorating now with these new downside targets kicking in, which is why you've got to watch them. Coal falling back to $208. So that's really significant there. We were bearish for the week ahead on coal. Emissions actually looking okay. But again, we did have downside targets this morning, and we did hit resistance on the cloud there. So you cannot ignore this daily cloud and the 60-minute cloud, medium term and short term. Gas prices are up this morning. They were up stronger, but we are just pulling back on the general malaise of markets. TTF up 4%, NBP up 5%. German power up 4%, but really the trend is still down, and we are wandering out on that daily trend. And of course, now we need to start looking to the Cal to 24 contract. That will be the key, watching that floor, whether we break that. And of course, we put our power and gas reports out for Europe, every power market in Europe and every gas hub. And of course, looking at UK markets, here we see 2004 summer contract. We're starting to see some upside pressure there, so that's quite interesting. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.